friends. I'm Karen, and this is the Family Food for Moms podcast. We're talking about inspiration for family cooking and dining. Today, we're going to be continuing our chat about plating techniques and how to make your dishes look a little elegant when you want them to. Episode 66 was about doing a chef's tasting menu for fun at home, like in a simple, delicious way, totally possible, and definitely don't want it to be overwhelming. Just to bring a bit of balance and reality, I'm always inspired by doing fancy meals at home, but most of the time I will cook something very simple like mince and pasta or grilled chicken with potatoes that we shred, or something like a stroganoff. Takes a little bit more time in the Instant Pot. And then sometimes I'll eat a sort of high quality frozen meal from a place that I trust for my family of 7. So we definitely have a lot of evenings where it's easy. We have pizza on Friday nights or sometimes Chinese. So it's only once a week, maybe twice. We have a date night once a week, and sometimes we'll get takeout for that, and sometimes we'll do it at home, but it's always very simple. So it's only 2, maybe 3 times a week where we're doing something more fancy or more intricate. And even then, I try to keep things simple, like in my recipe book, Elegant, Easy Appetizers. The emphasis is on easy as well as elegant, and they've all got 5 ingredients, and they're really good and simple to make at home. Some of them require a little bit of cooking, some of them don't. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by talking about things like chef's tasting menus. It's simply a really fun, special idea to do at home, to make some family memories, to try new foods, and to just try it at home and to have a longer meal with courses. So today we're going to talk more about practical examples of plating. Episode 66 was ideas for the actual menus and the structure of it and how it works. Episode 67 was on South Korea. Then episode 68 was about plating and how you can elevate the way your dishes look for your chef's menu or for any date night or celebration with family. So this time we're going to go into more practical detail. Last time I was talking about different dishes you could use, like a Chinese soup spoon to serve one of your courses in. And we talked about the principles of plating. So today we're going to take specific dishes and break down how you could plate them at home. I'm definitely the type of person who likes to make things fun. I struggle to do something if it's just work and if I'm not inspired in some way. So I love being inspired by different cultures, different methods of making food, and then definitely by elegant and beautiful table settings, by restaurants, all of that kind of thing. And my favorite gifts at any time would be something for the table, whether it's crockery, whether it's gold knives and forks, cutlery, whether it's, I don't know if you can still call them silverware if they're gold, if it's napkins or little lights for the table or anything that enhances that experience. So I kind of collect those things and use them where possible, but also I'm passionate about family time, time with our kids, quality time to enjoy each other and to not be in a rush. And I'm the type of person too that's usually in a rush or usually busy. And so I really need this kind of thing to help me slow down and relax with my family. We have 5 children, 2 of whom are young adults and can cook independently, and another 2 who can cook quite a few things already. And then the last one is learning. But it's lovely to also be able to sometimes give them the chance to cook one night a week. They learn the responsibility, they learn how to do it, and it gives us a break, gives me a break, and it's something different. So that's really helpful too because the kids are older. When I had young children, I was definitely less creative in terms of fancy dinners, but we still did do family fun nights a lot, things that were age appropriate for our young kids. So there's lots of ways to do all of these things. You can even get different kinds of takeout and do a family food fair without it being extra work for mom. If you have a young baby and little toddlers or younger children, that always is easier. So, back to the subject at hand, plating. So, here's a practical idea for plating a simple chicken dinner. So, let's say you've made a baked or grilled chicken breast, some mashed potatoes, and some roasted vegetables. So, number one, you would spoon the mashed potatoes onto the plate into a circle, slightly off center, and then you would slice the chicken breast and fan the pieces out over the mash. Then you would place the roasted vegetables leaning against the chicken or in a neat pile to the side. And then you would dot or drizzle gravy around the plate. You could do one big circle, or you could do a few dots in the open space, or you could pour it over the chicken breasts. And then top with a small fresh herb like parsley or rosemary, and then wipe the plate edges before serving. Very simple, but a little bit elevated. Next, let's talk about pasta. How to make your pasta dishes look elegant. So, general tips for all pasta dishes, not so much with a bolognese, but just with a simple sauce or topping. So, use a wide flat plate, gives you more space to work with. Generally, things like spaghetti tagliatelle are easy to present, and those work well on a plate. If you're going to do something like penne or fusilli, those short, small pieces, those are harder and will do better in a bowl, perhaps mixed with the sauce or just under the sauce, but a bowl to contain that. So let's talk about the spaghetti and tagliatelle. So if you take a fork and you twist it after placing it on the plate, that always looks really elegant. If you have a sauce that is not too wet, you can mix it in with the pasta a little bit and then twirl it and it'll hold that shape. If you have a sauce that's runnier, then it's better to put it on the plate, perhaps next to, like using it as art. So if you've got a pesto or like a red pepper or a basil pesto, anything like that, do a swirl or a smush on the side or mix it into the pasta and then twist with the fork, like I mentioned. Always a garnish of something like basil leaves looks amazing. So, layering your pasta, you can use a big ring mold and you can put the pasta underneath and then the sauce on top, like a crown. So, if we are talking about something like a bolognese, again, it depends how liquid it is. If it's not too liquid, then you can do the spaghetti twist with the crown of the bolognese on top. If it is quite liquid, then perhaps mixing it in is better, or as I said, doing it in a bowl. You can use edible flowers on top as well, or toasted seeds or nuts, as well as the herbs. So the tagliatelle or spaghetti nest and crown is great. And then always a little bit of shaved Parmigiano Reggiano on top. Deconstructed, you can do a little nest of pasta and surround it with small streaks of different components. Your ricotta cheese, your bolognese sauce, etc. You can drag a spoonful of bolognese across the plate like a brush stroke and then put your twirl of tagliatelle or spaghetti over that with the parmesan on top. Let's talk about a salad plating. So, for example, a roasted beetroot, pieces of that with a goat's cheese salad, so an appetizer. So, cut your red and gold beets into wedges or rounds. Then use a flat plate, a white one or maybe a black one to contrast with the color of the beets. Medium-sized plate or a wide bowl is good for an appetizer. Then we have the goat's cheese. So we need to soften it a bit with a fork and then take a spoonful and spread it on the plate with the back of the spoon or even with a spatula. You can do a swish or you can do it circular. If it's very crumbly, you can mix it with a little bit of cream cheese or even cream to get a smoother texture. And then you place, remember the rule of odds, the 3 to 5 beet pieces. spaced around the smear. If you have both colors of beets, you can alternate your red and golden beets colors. And then tilt some of them to create depth. And then the fresh greens is always lovely. A little bunch of microgreens in the center or on top of the beets. And then you could also add a few crushed nuts. Also, a sauce accent is always nice. You could use a little olive oil. You could use a little salt, crushed salt. Your sauce you can put into a squeeze bottle and do the dot or the drizzle. Perhaps balsamic glaze. Any sauce that you might want to add, something like ranch dressing. Then let's think about a soup. Say you have a lovely green broccoli soup or a blended cauliflower soup. A wide bowl, elegant bowl is lovely. And then you've got lots of space on top to decorate. So say you have your green broccoli soup in a low, wide bowl. Then you can take some cream and drizzle it over or into the soup. You can use olive oil or balsamic reduction to do that. Draw swirls, zigzags, or concentric circles on the surface. And a squeeze bottle helps, or a spoon tip to give you more control, or drag a skewer through it afterwards to add to the effect. Then you can use a small pile of microgreens or nuts or croutons in the middle to add to the effect and to the flavor. In cream of tomato soup, you can use a bit of goat's cheese or even some grated cheddar. If you have the cauliflower soup, you can put a pile of pancetta or a few seeds in the middle, like mustard seeds. Another way to do it elegantly is to have soup in a jug or a pitcher, and then inside your bowl you have the little pile of croutons with microgreens on top with no soup, and then you pour the soup into the bowl and it slowly surrounds the croutons in the middle. That's always very elegant, and the kids find it so exciting to do your soup that way. Also with soup, what you could do is two different color soups. So say you have a butternut and a beetroot soup, or a broccoli and a cauliflower soup. First pour the cauliflower soup into the bowl and then pour a little bit of the broccoli or the pea soup, a green color, into the middle of that soup, and it'll have a darker color inside the cauliflower soup. You could put your butternut soup and then a little bit of cauliflower soup in the middle, just two contrasting colors. And then you could use a skewer to just create some little patterns inside there, but it always looks amazing to have the two contrasting colors. And then lastly, let's think about desserts. So most important would be the dish you use. A lovely glass dish is very elegant, or any small delicate dishes that you have, because dessert doesn't need to be a lot. It just needs to be a suggestion, something yummy, something very tasty but small. So think small dishes. Then keep it simple. 2 or 3 elements are enough. So think of the main dessert and then a sauce or a fruit and maybe a garnish. White plating or glass always works well to highlight dessert colors. And a wide rim can be decorated. You can decorate it with the sugar dip, as I mentioned in the previous episode. And then focus on balance. So you want textures like soft cake or mousse combined with crisp like cookie or a nut crumble. Contrasting colors like chocolate with berries or lemon with green mint. And then shapes. Dessert plates are always amazing with shapes, triangles, circles, squares, contrasting shapes. Use cookie cutters even for fun shapes. So let's try plating a brownie with berries and some whipped cream. So first you would make neat slices or a shape. Warm your knife by running it under hot water and wipe it dry. That really helps before slicing your brownie. Then place it slightly off center on the plate, not right in the middle or in the bowl. Then you're going to add some fresh berries beside the brownie. Or if you don't have berries, use a spoonful of jam or drizzle some chocolate sauce or caramel sauce in an elegant zigzag on the plate. Then we're going to add your whipped cream or even your ice cream. So use a spoon or a Ziploc bag with the corner cut off. pipe a little whipped cream on, or a clean scoop of ice cream using an elegant scoop next to the brownie or on top. And then the garnish, some chopped nuts, some cookie crumble, or some shaved chocolate is divine. Looks amazing. Then you can add a mint leaf, an edible flower, or some orange zest on the top for a pop of color. And then you can dust the powdered sugar or the icing sugar with a sieve, a tiny little sieve, and it dusts it over like snow. So get your children involved in looking at some pictures of how things could be plated. For me, pictures work best because then I know what I'm aiming for. Although it doesn't always turn out like I'm aiming for, but still, it's fun. So look at some pictures online, something like pasta bolognese, spaghetti bolognese, or fancy brownie plating, just to get some ideas. And then it's best to plan your plate before you go ahead so that everybody knows what's being aimed for, and then hopefully it will look amazing. I'm sure it'll taste amazing. Just have fun. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next week.